dirty oil. Man, it's the worst.
It's an enemy for any engine that's made.
Right, think about it. Contamination of your oil is the #1 cause of premature engine failure. I mean, Timken bearings have said the #1 cause of bearing failure is contamination. The only thing standing between your engine and failure pretty much is that oil filter.
That's correct. And you know, there are so many different types of filters that the average person sometimes can get confused as to what would be the best for their application. What we're going to try to do here today, and we talked about this a little bit before the end of the year last year, we kind of gave you guys a sneak preview of what we're going to do. We're actually going to take our mule motor here that we've gotten so much data off of throughout the years. We're going to actually try to break it.
Essentially what we're going to do on the engine is exactly what they do in the filter test lab. They use a special filter test dust where they take the oil and they contaminate the oil on purpose before it goes to the filter, and they count the number of particles in the oil before the filter and then after the filter.
Correct.
Well, we don't have all that lab equipment here, so here's what we're gonna do.
We're going to cheat a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So, and we don't have the special filter test dust either. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna take some iron powder, because here in the engine shop, one of the things we have to do is magnaflux parts.
We have to check for cracks all the time.
Right. So there's a special powder, an iron powder.
Very fine iron powder that's used in a special solution that we used to put on something magnetic that after we magnetize it, and if there's a crack in it, the iron dust will show up under a black light.
Exactly. So we're going to take that same powder, we're going to weigh out 5 grams of that powder.
Now, how did we guess 5 grams? It was a guess. We just
just 5. That's the number.
We just picked that number,
yeah. So 5 grams of that iron powder. We're going to put it in the oil before we put it in the engine.
Mix it into the oil first before the oil goes into the engine.
Right, so we're going to do that. We're going to take a sample of that mixed oil.
Before it gets into the engine.
Right, so we were going to know how much iron was in the oil, how many particles are in the oil before it goes in the engine.
Those samples we are going to take and keep and then send them to a professional lab so that we can be sure of what we've done. Speed Diagnostics is going to do this testing for us, and we're going to know how much was in the oil before it went into the engine. Then we're going to run the engine for 1 hour, and we're going to make power pulls over that hour. Then we're going to drain the oil out and take a sample of that used oil. So we're going to know what it was before and after that 1 hour test. But here's where it gets really fun, Don. We're going to run a standard paper type media. Which is what I've been using and recommending forever, yes.
Right, this is a 25 micron filter. When we're going to take a wire screen media. So this is a paper, synthetic type media that has, we call it a depth media to it. So it's got these different pores and shapes the contaminants have to go through to filter them out. The other
While
one,
still having the flow capabilities to not starve your engine for oil.
Right.
We're catching the bad stuff, but we're letting the oil go through.
Exactly. So this is a traditional type media. Then we're going to go to a wire screen media. Couldn't get the exact same micron rating between the paper media and the wire screen media, but they're really, really close. So what we're going to be able to do is be able to compare how efficient those two filter medias are in getting all the debris, all the contaminant out of the oil. The other thing we're going to see is how much wear occurs in the engine during that same time. Because if it's not capturing that contaminant and holding in the filter, then it's going through the engine, and that's not going to be good.
We kind of knew that was going to happen anyways, but we don't really know exactly how much damage is going to occur. We know that the filter is not going to catch every particle. It's just not possible. Yeah. There's no filter that does that. Again, this is why it is so important to keep that filter clean on any given motor.
Yeah, clean oil is the key. You want to have the right oil, right place, right time, right amount. Well, one of the things about right oil is clean oil. So it's really important. So you may be wondering, why are we doing this anyway? We don't hate our engine. Well, back to what Don mentioned, the last time we ran this engine, we were testing some new piston ring
coatings. So the idea is we want to find out how durable those coatings are.
And because of that, this is kind of a dual test because we're continuing that test that we did back at the end of the year with this new test, because of the fact that every ring that you put in the motor has to seat in, it has to bed in, there's going to be a certain amount of wear. We are making that wear happen a little quicker so that we can measure it better.
Well, you know, it's no different than what happens when the diesel engine oil companies are testing new oils or new engines in a diesel application. They will actually take soot. They take carbon black, which is a surrogate for soot, and they put it in the oil brand new. So the engine is actually running on dirty oil from the very go, because they know that increases the severity of the test, so they have a better idea. Is that engine going to be able to hold it? Is the oil going to be able to do a good job handling that contamination? So what we're doing isn't totally crazy. It's done in the lab all the time. We're just doing it here. We're going to have some fun. So we're going to find out how durable this piston ring coating is, and we're going to find out how well these two different filters work. So,
and one of the main things is, like Lake and I always do, is whatever information we find out, it's going to go right back to you guys. Really, why we're doing this, to not just so that we can learn. We've learned a tremendous amount.
Oh, yeah.
We want to help you guys out too.
Exactly. You want to make sure you're choosing the right oil, the right filters, and doing all the right things so you get the most performance and durability out of your engine. I think we've said that 300 or 400 times.
A million times. And this poor baby right here is going to be, she's going to, we're going to put her through the test today, and as soon as it's going to take a while to get all the data collected and put together, but as soon as we do, you guys will be the first to know.
What's going to be really cool is, so through the magic of YouTube and expedited processing. So today's a Monday. We're going to run this engine today. We're going to shut up here in a second and run the engine. We'll take those samples, all 5 samples, fresh oil, you know, non-contaminated, the contaminated oil before the regular filter, that ran oil, then that fresh oil again with contaminant before the wire screen media, and then after, all 5 samples will go to the lab. We'll have those results, and then we're going to come back on Friday of this week, and then we'll film the rest of this video and give you the results. So it'll all be in one video for you today, but for us, it's a whole week. Stay tuned. We're going to get the oil blended up. You can watch that, and then we're going to go get the dyno started up, so stay tuned.
Let's do it.
So here's our fresh oil sample right from the drum. So this will give us the baseline of how much particles are in the oil before we add in the iron powder. All right, now we're going to weigh in our 5 grams of iron powder. So that would be 1 gram for every quart of oil. All right, so we've mixed everything up in the oil, taken the samples, so now it's time to put it in the engine. All right, here it goes. Add a little bit of load, give it some throttle, hit the starter, get some more pressure going. All right, fire it up. Let's see what happens. We're at the 10-minute mark, so the time for the first pull. Let's see what happens here. Nothing bad yet. Run number 2. Let's see how she goes. All 40 minutes in, time for the third pull. Minutes in, fourth pull. Let's see what she's got. Oil pressure's hanging in there, so that's a good sign, isn't it, Don?
That's a good sign.
Yeah. 50 minutes in, run number 5, let's see. Okay, 1 hour down, last pull. Let's see what she does. Hung right in there, real no change of power from the first run to the last run. Oil pressure's hanging in there, so.
It's good.
All right, we'll shut it off.
We'll shut it off and take some samples.
Exactly. All right, we take samples at exactly 3 minutes.
Oh,
there's our timer.
There's
Yep.
the buzzer, it's 3 minutes. Why did we do that? Because every test that we've always done, we've always taken the oil sample after 3 minutes. I'll show you now. It should be the same every time.
Maintain the consistent procedure so your results don't vary. Let it begin to drain. Now we'll fill a sample bottle up. All right, test 1 done. Move on to test number 2. So we got to reset. Zero the scale out. All right, now we put in 5 grams. Okay, test number 2 is running. We've got the wire mesh filter, same 5 grams of iron powder in the oil. It's time for the first run. Let's see what happens. About the same. So let's keep running it and see what happens. 20 minutes in, time for the second run. All right, losing a little more power now. 30 minutes in, time for the third pull. Power level is the same as before. It's a little bit lower from the previous runs. We'll keep running, see what we find out. 40 minutes in, time for the fourth run. Yeah, still down in power a little bit here. Keep running. 20 more minutes. $50 minutes. Time for the fifth pull. Hang it in there. 10 more minutes left in the final pull. Stay tuned. All right, second hour's up. Time for the last run. Across the board after this second hour run. So we'll shut it off, take an oil sample, we'll tear it down, so stay tuned for the results. Same as before, let it drain for a second, then put this right in there. We're gonna capture it, fill it 3/4 of the way full, boom. Ooh, yeah, that looks kind of black and ugly. Now these are gonna go to the lab and we'll come back with the lab results.
Well, gosh, it's Friday. We started this whole project this week on Monday with some really fun dyno stuff, but today's really a special day because it's my best friend's birthday. Happy birthday, Lake.
We're dating the video now, but anyway, yes, it is my birthday, and the surprise is we actually got the information we were hoping for from this test. Like you said, we started the week on Monday, dynoing the engine, getting all the testing done. Remember, we had 5 quarts of oil with 5 grams of powder in it. Now,
iron dust powder.
Yeah.
That's used for magnafluxing.
Right, and we sent those 2 samples. We made 2 batches, right? So we had to have 1 batch for the paper filter. We had to have another batch for the wire screen filter,
Yes.
so it was fair comparison
Yes.
to see how much was being removed from each batch.
Correct.
Took samples of the fresh oil, and we ran the dyno test, which you saw, and we took samples of the used oil. And now we've sent them to the lab, so Speed Diagnostics has already analyzed that. So it's Friday, we already have the results back, so let's get into the details.
Details are incredible. Every once in a while, you and I get surprised about certain things.
Yeah.
We had thought about what might happen with this test. We
Yes.
always do that before we actually do the test. These results are pretty incredible.
They really are. So from the fresh oil right out of the drum, that was what's called an ISO rating of 16. Basically, all oils have something in them.
There will be particles in every oil that you buy, every brand new oil that you buy.
Right, there's additives in the oil,
Yeah.
so there's gonna be something in there when you look at the number of particles in the oil. What happens is every time one of those numbers increases, it means the amount of particles in the oil doubled. Our fresh oil was 16. Batch number 1, 5 quarts of oil with 5 grams of iron powder, was 22.
22, from 16 to 22.
Huge.
That's a huge increase. That's a lot of iron dust in that oil. That's scary, actually.
Right, to be specific, it went from 404 particles larger than 4 microns to what? 21,425 particles larger than 4 microns.
Yeah.
Massive difference.
Yeah.
Right, so the second batch, again, 5 quarts of oil, 5 grams of powder, it was at 24,000 particles larger than 4 microns. So that's what we had to begin with.
The two batches were
Very
fairly
close.
close. The numbers
And
were a little different, but they were close enough for our test.
They were both in ISO 22.
Exactly.
So
yeah.
again, we'll call it the error or the deviation on that test says they're both, we went from a 16 to 22 on both. So we have a fair comparison. Both of them were equally dirty. Same amount of iron measured in, essentially the same rating.
Yeah, exactly.
We ran the tests. You saw the test run. There's a lot of work there. Now here's the results. So the paper filter that we ran first, when it came back, the ISO rating was 19. To give you the real numbers, that went from what, 21,425 to 3,435.
So when you think about that, that's 17,000 particles roughly that the paper filter caught and kept from going back into the engine.
They removed it. It's great, right?
That's wonderful.
And the cool thing is, from that first run, to the last run on that test, there was zero degradation of power. The exact same level of power the whole time.
After an hour worth of running, hour dyno time, temperatures, everything the same, there was no difference in power.
Right. Now, the wire screen filter.
Oh.
Remember, it started at a 22 with 24,000 particles in the oil. It finished with 20,000 particles in the oil. And the ISO rating was still a 22. So it really didn't filter that much. So it removed 4,000 particles compared to the other one removed nearly 18,000 particles.
From an engine standpoint, guys, this is really, really important. And I've been telling people this for 40 years. You know, I actually used to use a screen filter. I don't recommend them just because of what we've gone through here today. Steel filter that we had was one of the smallest
micron
that you could get. It was 30. I think it was 35.
It was 35, and you couldn't get a paper filter that loose. We got one that was 27 or something.
The paper filters that we're using is 27 micron filter, which means that it's catching everything bigger than 27 microns versus everything bigger than 35.
Right.
Just that difference right there allowed particles that were larger than 4 microns to go right through the filter and back into the engine. I can't wait to see how it damaged this motor.
Well, and that's the key thing. Like you said, that wire screen, because it's a 35, it's only capturing things larger than 35.
Correct.
It's capturing nothing less than that. What we saw with the paper filter is, even though it's a 27, it still removed, 18,000 particles that were smaller than that.
Right, exactly.
That's incredible. I mean, that's such a huge thing. So even though, and that's because of the depth of that paper media, it's able to do a better job filtering.
From a motor standpoint here, the guys that really are thinking about this whole thing that we're doing here that might ask, well, what happened to the oil pressure? It's a great question, because that's one of the things that we were also testing also. Now,
I watched it like a hawk because I was worried.
Exactly, that we were worried we're going to lose the bearing with that much crap going through
Exactly.
the engine.
So,
which luckily it didn't get to that point where it was catastrophic.
No, it didn't. The bad news was, because it wasn't cleaning the oil properly, the engine lost essentially 10 horsepower
in an hour.
1 hour.
In 1 hour. So that's why we're kind of excited to get into this thing, rip it apart, and see how bad it is.
Right, because the whole idea was we wanted to actually measure the wear on the rings. The whole idea of doing this complete test is that we got these new coatings, and we wanted to put the coatings through a torture test, which is what we did.
Exactly. We just speeded the process up a little bit with the iron dust.
And then we played around with the filters just for fun.
Yeah.
So the good news coming out of the test for the rings is that that top ring coating contains chromium. The oil rail coating contains titanium. From the oil analysis results, there was 0 chromium, 0 titanium. So without even looking at the engine
without taking the piston out, we know that the coating is still there.
Exactly.
Because it's not in the oil.
Right. If it was wearing out and delaminating, we would have seen it in the oil.
Exactly.
We're seeing nothing in the oil, so we know that this coating is super durable. It had better ring seal, it made better horsepower, and now we know it can live in a torturous environment and hold up. So great news on the ring coating.
Probably not so much good news for bearings and camshafts and things like that, but you know what? We knew that was going to happen.
Right.
We'll start over, we'll take the whole thing apart, start over again, and make it all fresh again.
Exactly. So we'll get it all freshened up, and we'll do some new testing in the future. So stay tuned. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you want to see more of our antics and adventures as we do more engine testing.